Hello, welcome to another episode of Inflatable Sup Authority, where we help you choose the right board for you and give you paddling tips and tricks as well. All right, today we are testing the Nixy Newport G5. This, at the time of recording, is on pre-order right now and is the evolution of the Nixy Newport G4, which has been around for a few years. So we're gonna test this board, not just the stability, the tracking, maneuverability, etc. like we usually do, but we're actually also gonna test it against the G4, which is a model that I have, and we're gonna actively be comparing both of them. So let's get into it. Now that we're gliding around kind of nice, we got the tide pushing us a little bit in the wind, so let's stand. Put the paddle like this. 1, 2. Okay. Yeah, this is definitely a Newport. From my first impression, I haven't tested the G4 just yet. I should say this year anyway. We're getting to that. But this is definitely more of a sensitive board. Just like how the G4 was. It's a lot more sensitive either side. And I believe that's still because of the board shape. The shapes are nearly identical. So overall, I would say this is a good stable board. Is it the most stable board I've ever paddled? No. I previously took the Bote Easy Rider out, and like stability is a lot different. It's a lot more stable. But this is a better sort of all-around board where it's a little bit more, it's quicker, and it'll grow with you more. While the Easy Rider that I just tested, it's more of just a beginner board slash a kayak hybrid. So let's start putting it through the rings here. All right, now that we are sort of going with the tide is pushing us towards the back. So I think this is about the best place to do tracking test. So let's do the tracking test and we'll compare it to the results on the G4. So let's straighten this baby out here. And we will first let's do this side. Okay, let's just go straight. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, now let's straighten this baby out. All right, here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I think one of the things that stands out is this definitely feels a little bit more maneuverable compared to the Newport G4. I have to put that to the test, which we'll figure out, but that was tracking. All right, time for some maneuverability tests. So let's do reverse 360 sweep strokes and see what the readings are. So let's get started. Nose pointing at the ramp. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, just about 4. 4 reverse sweep strokes. If I was to guess, I think that this would be better than the Newport G4, but we'll figure that out. Now let's do reverse side paddles. Get it straight. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Very interesting. Okay, 11 reverse side paddles. So my paddling impressions with the G5 is that this is a very lightweight, responsive board. Even when I was carrying it, the G5 feels lighter than the G4. Now it could be, it's probably made with more lightweight materials, but also this board only has one center fin, while the Newport G4 has two side fins and then the dolphin center fin. So I think that also helps shave weight off of this board. So if you're a smaller paddler and you don't want to lug a heavy board, this is a pretty good pick. Supremely lightweight, one of the more lightweight ones I've actually picked up. Paddling against the tide, this board is holding its own, slash the wind slash tide I should say. We're making ground, we're getting there. Putting stronger strokes in. All right guys, welcome aboard the Nixy Newport G4. This is the 2021 edition. Still holding up, still a great board. You can see there's a little bit of wear and tear on it, but that's what happens with inflatable paddle boards when they're used a lot. Still in very good condition, I'd say. Okay, now we're gonna stand on this board and see how it compares to the G5. So let's get to it. Huh. If I was to say right off the bat, I would actually say the G5 has a little bit better primary stability compared to, or sorry, the G4 has better primary stability compared to the G5. This feels like more of a platform. And I believe the reason for that is the stats on the G4 is it's 33 inches wide compared to the G5. So we're gonna paddle this board and we're gonna put it through some tracking and maneuverability tests. Oh, and there's a hawk. Wow, that's cool. Let's do some tracking tests with the G4. So the tracking test, I think we concluded is about 5 strokes a side with the G5. So we're gonna try to place the G4 in a similar position. I've done this literally 15 minutes after doing the test with the G5, maybe a half hour later. So I'm trying to replicate the conditions so that we can get a good reading here and I could properly compare these boards. Okay, tracking test ahoy. Okay, so let's get a bit of momentum and we'll go. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, this is a strong 6 strokes each side. So I think the tracking on the G4 is better than the G5. And I think most of that comes down to the 3-fin setup has 5-inch side fins attached to it, which I personally really liked actually, and helped this board track really well. G5 just has the single fin. So let's do some maneuverability tests. So we're gonna do 360 reverse sweep strokes. The Newport G5 did it in 4, I believe. So let's see what this does. All right. 4.5. So actually, I think very similar reading, very similar feeling. Both times the wind was kind of against me and I did feel a little bit, felt a tiny bit sketch as soon as I'm doing these sweep strokes and then the water is hitting the nose, the tide slash wind is hitting the nose to a certain angle. Kind of got to adjust a bit. But yeah, that's the reading. We'll wait for the wind to calm down and we'll do the side paddles. All right, now we're gonna do reverse side paddles. I'm in a bit of a different position because this little thing is protecting me from the wind. I don't really feel like falling in today. It's still April in Canada, so Anyway, let's do some reverse side paddles. At least the nose pointing to the ramp, so let's do it. 1, 2, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so yeah, I think that's debunked. The maneuverability of the G4 is not as good as the G5. And of course, I think a huge part of that is because of the 3-fin setup. So overall, to summarize the findings on this, I found that the Newport G4, this guy that I'm standing on, a little more stable, a little more primary stability. I feel like the Newport G5 has a little bit better secondary stability. The back and forth is a little bit more fluid, while this feels a little more like a platform. I think that's because this board is like an inch wider. The tracking is better on the G4, but the maneuverability is better on the G5. Now that I'm paddling a little bit against the wind and tide, I also wanted to note that the G5 actually feels a bit easier to paddle. I can tell you right off the bat, it is more of a lightweight board. Even by carrying it, I believe that it's 21 pounds. Maybe this one, I think it's 23 pounds, something like that. So you can definitely feel a bit of the difference. You can also feel the difference even paddling. Like this feels a little bit more, let's just say, sluggish. I have to put a little bit more effort to get this guy to go. G5 is a little bit more effortless. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the Blackfin Ultra CX, the G5. In that it is very, very responsive. It's not the most stable board around, but it is very responsive, and it's actually a pretty fun board to paddle. You know, it's good, especially if you want a board to last you a long time and you want something to grow with you as your skill level grows. Solid board. Now just to show you a little side-by-side comparison. Overall, I felt that the Newport G5, one on the right here, more maneuverable, is lighter weight, it's more responsive, and I felt it was a little bit quicker, or at least the acceleration is. Kind of hard to say in these conditions. While the Newport G4 has better tracking, I felt it was a little bit more stable, more primary stability. It does feel like a little bit more of a platform in the water. Now the differences are pretty minor, and the only reason I know this is because I tested them back to back. I actually also felt, after doing a little bit of a balance test on the water where I jump up and down, I felt that the Newport G4 felt a little bit more stiff compared to the Newport G5. Now that could be because it has carbon side rails, while the Newport G5, I don't believe it does, or at least it's not specified on the board. What are my impressions of the Newport G5? Well, from my time paddling so far, I do feel like it's a bit more maneuverable compared to the G4. This board, it keeps a lot of the same features that made the Newport series so great. It doesn't have the carbon side rails, but I feel like this is actually a pretty stiff board. Like I'm bouncing on it right now, and it just kind of, it stops instead of some other ones where they're kind of a little more bendy and they keep going. So that's a pretty good little trick. I think we're doing fusion laminate PVC, so they probably improved the process on that. And then they also are doing woven drop stitch, which is also, I think, a little bit of an improvement from the original Newport G4. Overall though, I do like it. It's paddling against the water here, against the tide, against the wind. Doing my maneuverability, stroke, so especially the side paddles, there's wind coming at me, and there were some times where I was a little bit, I had to correct a bit. The board definitely has a lot more play than you would find with other all-around boards. So it might be a little bit of a steeper learning curve for a beginner. But at the same time, once you use this board a lot, like I did with the G4, it's probably my most used board, you really get used to it and you kind of enjoy the play. So I personally like the play. Beginners might feel a little bit less sure-footed. All it is practice. Practice makes perfect. But overall with the board itself, yeah, I'm pretty impressed. The only thing I feel that the Newport G5 could have improved on is they don't include any of those really great accessories anymore. They don't include the bag, they don't include the lightweight carbon hybrid paddle, which were some of my favorite things about the Nixy package. Bit unfortunate, but I feel like inflation is probably a big player to blame for this. And you know, that's just the economy today. But they do offer those items at a cheaper price, at a discounted price if you buy this board, as opposed to if you were to just buy them separately. So there's that. But overall, they pretty much kept the design as the same, exact same shape, exact same features on there. The only difference is they only have one fin on now, and I believe that the fin makes the board a little more maneuverable instead of the 3-fin setup. So if you found this review helpful, feel free to like and subscribe. If you think that you may be interested in this board, you want to purchase it, appreciate if you go through my affiliate link. Helps me keep creating content, doesn't come at extra cost to you. So yeah, till then, peace out. Bye guys.